Hey guys, it's Russell back, and on today's video I'm going to be showing you how to install a B&M Supercooler on our '89 Chevy K1500 Silverado. I searched far and wide for some aftermarket transmission coolers that are going to go into the level of fabrication that this needs, and I couldn't find any. The 88 to 98 trucks have a lot of room here, but they don't have a lot of good mounting space. A lot of the newer trucks, you'll see they have support bars and all that. This required thinking out of the box. So let me show you what I did. I went down to Home Depot and got a piece of, let's see, it was just the Everbuilt. This is aluminum. It's like 1/8 inch by 1.5 inches by 4 feet. So all I did was I cut a 20-inch piece, and originally I was just going to have a 20-inch piece and have this foot like that as a support, but the problem is, obviously I've twisted this, but the problem was that there's no way to get the screws down in there, self-tapping screws that I'm going to use. So what I did was, I'm like, well, let me mount it this way and have the foot where it's facing this way. Okay, that way I'll have access to put the self-tapping screws here, and I'll be able to put one there. And then I took another piece and I did the exact same thing. I made a little mounting foot by just bending it. Then I heated this. You can use aluminum, is very, very easy to heat and move. So I used I had a torch, but you can use just a propane or MAP gas. Heat it. I just stuck it in the vise and put some big channel locks and just very gently moved it so it twisted. And then I took this part right here and just bent it over the same angle. So I'll be able to mount it there and right there. So what this is going to give me is the cooler. Let me go get the tripod, because this is ghetto doing it this way. All right, that's better. So this is pretty much where this is going to be in position, and you can mount this either with the inlet and outlet going sideways or this way, and because the hoses are going to be routing that way, that's why I did it this way. And basically it's going to mount just like that, which is perfect because I've got about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch clearance between the cooler and the condenser. I'll have plenty of space to have my hoses. I'm probably going to put them through here or maybe right here. I haven't decided yet. And it will have good 4 points of security right there. So yeah, that's going to work out really well. If you try to find out how to make brackets, if you try to do a YouTube search, nobody really takes you through that. This is the cooler that was on here. This is an old Hayden, and it just had those plastic like tie strips going through the radiator and the condenser, and you can see it's damaged. I'm gonna have to get a Fen comb and see if I can straighten that out, because there's no airflow through there anymore. I don't want the cooler touching the radiator or the condenser at all. That's why I'm doing it this way. And I mean, this is, I think this was $6 or $7, this piece of aluminum. I was going to use steel, and steel will bend. It'll bend. It's harder to bend. It is stronger, but this is plenty strong enough when this is mounted. The only mistake that I made, if you can see how this is nice, and I took my time with this because I saw that I rushed it over here and it ripped a little bit. Now this thing is super strong and it's not going anywhere. But just make sure when you heat it, obviously don't heat it till it's red hot. Aluminum will basically go from a solid to a liquid like that. It doesn't give you any warning. But this way, I just turned it real slow, and it just stretched the metal and didn't bend it. So I will take a grinder and clean this up, And but that's where it's going to be mounted. That's going to work out real well, because these two bend this a little. These two points are on the same plane. I was going to attach it to here from here, but it would have not been on the same plane. So this is going to work perfect. After I do this, I've got a Derale spin-on transmission filter that is going to be mounted inside here. So the fluid will come out of the transmission. It'll go into the filter first. And the reason let me tell you the logic behind that. If the transmission ever takes a dump, if it ever pukes, if it ever goes bad, dumping, you know, fiber material and metallic particles through there, normally, you know, pull the transmission out, rebuild it. It's not good enough just to flush the condenser and the cooler, because you don't want that metallic substance getting back in there. So some people put it on the return, but I want the cooler that's inside the radiator and this aftermarket cooler to never have any debris in there ever. So that's why I'm running it through, and I don't think it matters one bit. It's going to run straight through the filter. It'll run through the radiator, come out of the radiator, go through the cooler, and then go back to the transmission. So that's what we're doing. I will paint these black, so you won't be able to really see it through the grill like you would if it was like this. But I think I think it worked out real well. Aluminum is really good. If you don't have a torch, that's fine. Just go get you a MAP gas at Home Depot, a MAP gas cylinder, and that's plenty enough heat to heat aluminum. In fact, you could do steel with it. It'll just take a lot longer. But all I did was just measure, and I came up with what was going to work best, and I'm very pleased with how this came out. I'm going to be able to get to everything. So I'm going to go, I've already cleaned this up with the grinder. I'm going to go and clean this bracket up. I'm going to make sure my angle's perfectly correct here. I'm going to nip this little edge off, and then I'm going to use, because this is a blind area right here, I'm going to use the like the self-tapping bolts. And same thing with this. I'll probably put one here, one there, and one up into the support there. And then all I'll do after that is drill some holes in the brackets, and then put some nuts and bolts through here from the back. And yeah, I think it's gonna work out and look really nice. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do that real quick, and we'll come back and I'll show you what the brackets are gonna look like when they're all cleaned up. All right, guys, I'm here back a couple days later. I wanted to show you the final bracket design that I've done to mount the B&M cooler. I had to change a few things. Number one, I had to make this arm here, because I didn't realize that this was one of the mounting points for the grill. So I went ahead and made this crossbar here. And after having mounted the cooler, I discovered that there was really no way for me to tighten or loosen these bolts here, these 3 bolts. So what I ended up doing was I got some longer bolts and basically made studs for the cooler so that I could mount the bracket on here, get everything tightened up, and then I can bolt the cooler to the bracket. I've just got these neoprene washers just to give a little bit of cushion, but it's very nice and stable. So the other thing that I've done is I've got the Derale transmission filter mounted here. Also, you see I went ahead and put in the new radiator. I installed that. I've got new heater hose and overflow tube, and I installed these fittings. Now this setup that I'm doing is going to be temporary. I will eventually have some lines made like out of hydraulic hose, but I want to make sure to get all the spacing and everything correctly. So this Derale filter, I just mounted it right here against the, there's just enough room where I can still take the filter off. And I actually could even use a little bit bigger filter. But I've got plenty of room on the radiator tank and enough room on the lines where it's not touching. And I just basically put some bolts through there, and it's very, very solid. The fittings that come, this is 3/8 inch to 3/8 inch. The inside diameter of the cooler hose is going to be 3/8. So it came with some straight fittings, and that really was not going to work. The hose is going to have too much of a bend. So the general way this is going to work is the fluid is going to come out of the transmission line. It's going to go into this side of the filter. It's going to come out of the filter, go into the bottom of the transmission. It'll come up through here, it'll come out of the bottom of the transmission, and I'm going to loop it around where it will go into the auxiliary cooler. It'll come out the auxiliary cooler and then back to the line that goes back to the transmission. Now, the previous owner or someone has cut the lines. I have new transmission lines, and I'll be able to put fittings on there so we can attach the hoses, but just for right now I'm going to keep those lines on there and make sure everything works. I've got yeah, that's the way the setup's going to go. It's going to be a little tight. I'm not sure how I'm going to route the hoses underneath, but this right here is going to filter to 20 microns. Okay, the filter screen that's in your transmission is like 200, 250 microns, which is ridiculous. It doesn't catch anything except big chunks. You keep the transmission cool, try to keep it around 175 degrees, and keep it filtered. It will virtually last forever. So I'm going to go get the cooler, and I'm going to go ahead and mount it on here so you guys can see what it looks like, so I can wrap this video up. I will do another video after I have completely run all the lines so you guys can see it in operation. But let me get the cooler, let's mount it up, and let's see how it looks. Alright, so I only have a few minutes of light left, and I've got everything plumbed. Let me just show you. If you guys don't understand, I'm not going to assume that you do. Let me show you what's going on. So the hose right here, this is the fluid flow. It comes out of the transmission, goes into the Derale filter, goes through the filter element, comes out of the filter, goes down to the lower inlet to the radiator, travels through the radiator, comes out of the radiator, goes into the B&M plate cooler, goes out of the plate cooler, and I utilized these holes. I just enlarged them a little bit and used grommets I got from Napa so there would be no chafing, and goes out and back down to the supply line to the transmission. And let me show you. So this right here is where somebody had already cut the lines. I would not have done that, but I just wanted to plumb everything up and make sure it worked properly. I used fuel injection clamps. These will hold a lot tighter than regular worm gear clamps. This one right here that my finger's on is the fluid coming out of the transmission, and this is going back to the transmission. So I wanted to just show you guys that before it got dark. Pretty simple. Everything looks good. I haven't cranked it up yet. I've got to put about 3 or 4 quarts of transmission fluid back in here, but I am excited about this. It's a nice clean install. My plan is, once I make sure that I have everything where I want it, I'm going to take the lines loose with the fittings and go to hydraulic shop and have them make me some actual hydraulic hoses with the fittings like this. So it'll look a little, or it'll be more durable. This is really good. If you guys ever do this and just want to use regular hose like I have used, this is actual transmission cooler hose It's got a 400 PSI working pressure, and it's, I think, 300 degrees on the temperature. So this is actual transmission cooler hose, as you can see. It's a Gate stuff, and look, it is made in the USA. This is what you want to use because transmission fluid gets very hot. Let me show you a piece of what was on here. Now, this stuff is super hard now. I don't know what brand this is, but I'm thinking that this is not transmission cooler hose. It may be, I'm not sure, but this has been on here for quite some time. I don't know how long, but anyway, this is part of the reason why I want to put a more permanent solution on here, because, you know, the hose is going to get, just any hose like this is going to start to degrade from the heat. And so I used about 11 feet, let's see, 6 and then 5. Yeah, I used 11 feet of hose to plumb this up. So I'm going to get cleaned up, add some transmission fluid in here, and when I get this thing cranked up, I'll let you guys see it. All right, guys, here I am back the next morning. I had one tiny leak right here. I had to take this fitting off and just tighten it back down to make sure everything was good, and it's fine. There are no leaks. I want to show you guys something. This is amazing. All right, so I've got my thermometer here, and it's about, I don't know, 47 or so degrees. And I wanted to show you, right now the radiator tank is about 156 degrees. I want to show you how amazing the efficiency of this thing is. I'm going to try to get it right. So it's going in there around 125 degrees, and it's coming out so it's about a 20-degree drop. And the reason I'm showing you guys this is because you can tell a noticeable difference. The fluid flow on this comes in the bottom, down, and back to the transmission, and it is noticeably warmer at the top than at the bottom. And it's just, it amazes me that this cooler is that efficient. I'm going to put a link to this and also the Derale spin-on filter assembly. You can put these on any vehicle. All right, obviously this is on a Chevy pickup truck, but any automatic transmission vehicle you can do that. I wish I had done this to some of my other automatics a long time ago. I'm thinking maybe at least adapting this to work on the Mercedes in there. I'm gonna have to check my spacing and locations, but yeah, I'm very, very, very pleased with both of these. I'm gonna run this probably, I'll change, depending on the miles, maybe every 10-15,000 miles, I'll change the spin on. I'll probably use a Wix next time, but they're all about 20 microns of filtration, which is awesome. So I hope this video was of interest to you guys. Setting this up, just look at the space that you have, and you know, pretty much everything I did was from Home Depot. The brackets, just some aluminum. If you've got a drill, you can go get your hardware. I was gonna make a steel one and weld it up, but I wanted to do something that anybody could do, okay, and that anybody would be able to fabricate. So, and get you some engine paint. This is just black engine paint. It's good to 500 degrees. It's got a nice shine to it, and you know, use good quality parts when you're doing this stuff. You know, when you're going through the core support, use grommets so that there's no chafing. Use really good fuel injection clamps. Now, obviously, as I told you before, I'm going to change this. This is just to make sure everything works. Then I can get my spacing correct and have lines made. But yeah, it's something anybody can do. So anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and in this video, I want to show you guys a magic trick. Okay, so hold on and I'll do that, show you guys a magic trick. All right, I want to show you guys a magic trick. Watch this. 1, 2, 3. That's how you do it.